Andrea Vargiu from University of Sassari in Italy, but today I will be speaking on behalf of myself, of course, but also of Professor Alberto Merler, who is sitting here, also from University of Sassari. Actually, Alberto was the one who brought for the first time to the University of Sassari, so more than 40 years ago, the very practice of community-based learning and research together, bringing it back from his experience with communities in Brazil. So where we are now with our work is connected to what to the seminal work of Alberto more than 40 years ago. Please allow me to be a bit schematic in this presentation, given the time. Rajesh reminded us before that University of Sassari is an ancient university. This is a document, this is the seal, and this document is 1617, but actually, if you look a bit left of it, the funding date of the university is 1562. Right? That is more than 450 years ago. Why do I recall this? The reason why I recall this is because this ancient history is actually part of a wider history. In that, if I might say, it is the history of how our society went about the organization of legitimate knowledge. This ancient history, comes from the ancient Greeks, through the ancient Romans, then the Arabs took it up and brought it back to Europe in the Middle Ages, and then European people came up with something that felt the need to organize this legitimate knowledge. And this is how it came to us, through this organization. And we know the historical experiences in Bologna, in Paris, in Coimbra, Salamanca, Cambridge, Oxford. In this, well, these are diverse institutions, but they have a common matrix. And this common matrix, you can recognize it all over the world. This might be trivial to remind, but this is important at the same time, because this brings us at the very heart of our conversation, because the expansion all over the world of this matrix went along with the power relations, geopolitical power relations. So it went along with the colonization process across the world. We must remember this while we're thinking and talking about introducing relevant changes in our institutions. These institutions, as I said, they were created to organize and regulate the legitimate monopoly of knowledge. So in my early days as a sociologist, I learned that institutions have a few characteristics. They have many, but I shall recall some that are of relevance here today. Durability. They last more than the life of their members, which means also that they must be conservative. So they are resistant to change. This is an important feature we must keep in our mind while trying to change our institutions. Second thing, well, our friend George Opinjuru reminded us, they internally organize the power relations. But also, they are shaped according to the external power relations. And of course, the normative frameworks, and of course, the existing resources in a given space and time. So this is very important because This makes institutions have the same matrix, but also get organized slightly different from place to place and to change slowly through time. So this brings us back to two levels of consideration. One is about the global consequences of this. I already recalled, I will not go over this, but we must remember that this matrix could expand over the world because it accompanied a colonization process. The second one brings us back to the center of this contribution today of ours, which brings us back to the situation, present situation of the situation in Italy. What is the situation right now in Italy? Well, of course, because this, long history now is coming across the present structure of trends and of power relations in our respective countries. So what's going on in Italy right now? Of course, you have these global trends. At economic level, you have financialization and all the neoliberal process that goes with it. In politics, you have increasing populism and sovereignism. And as far as public administration are concerned, and universities, you have what elsewhere is also known as new public management. I will not go through this very much, but this is an important thing that is marking our very experience within universities today. Further than that, in the organization and production of knowledge, which is the specific of universities, you have several changes. In different things, several things are changing in knowledge organization and production around us. There's especially concerning science. I will not go into each one of these, but I will just show them to you. And this has some implications. And the main implication is that things concerning science, research, innovation are getting much more complex than in the past. And furthermore, the relationships between research and innovation, science, and the overall society are changing, which implies for us in universities is that in the general research and innovation landscape, universities, little by little, they're becoming less central. In other words, they risk to become irrelevant. And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about the relevance of higher education today in our society. We are becoming irrelevant. The production and distribution of research and innovation is happening elsewhere, largely elsewhere, not in universities. So let me schematize. We have, allow me to be schematic, we have two choices. We either join what somebody has called the rat race of individuals, departments, and universities, or we choose to become socially relevant. And you do that by responding to societal need, to being sensitive about societal need. Universities, they have something very important. It has been mentioned before. We have autonomy. We have to keep and make treasure of this autonomy, not only to reclaim our academic freedom to do whatever we want. We need to be accountable, but to make our own choices. Ghent University, I'll give you this example. The rector of Ghent University, Rick van der Walle, he made a statement, quite a long statement. Let me read a few lines. Our university should once again belong to the academics rather than the bureaucracy. Ghent University is deliberately choosing to step out of the rat race between individuals, departments, and universities. We no longer wish to participate in the ranking of people. This is performing our autonomy. As you might understand, the rector of Ghent University is trying to go back to something very important for us that is at the center of what connects us to Gandhi's, Mahatma Gandhi's thought, and connects some of the thinkers, of important thinkers that we inspire our action in University of Sassari, Italian thinker. He brings back things to people. We like to decline this as to persons. Our inspiring authors may be people in Italy, like Antonio Gramsci, for instance, who spoke about the relevance of collective intelligence to be cultivated through education for all, or through the experiences of community education of Don Lorenzo Milani and an improper school, or community experimentations, innovative, like the one from Adriano Olivetti. So this introduces us to another element, not only persons like Ghent University Rector, but also community. And this coupling for us of person and community brings us to a central concept that we'd like to introduce here, which is the promotional community. It's not only community, but the promotional community. What does promotional community mean? We like to recall, in this regard, the work of a colleague and dear friend, Giuliano Gioia. We don't have a quote, but we try to, with Alberto, we try to sum up the distinctive features of his thought about the connection between person and community, which results in promotional community. It's the valorization and promotion of community and human persons through community self-governance, autonomy, once again, performed through self-governance, based on enhancement of local, spiritual, cultural, and material resources. The heart, the mind, and the spirit. Through diffused and participated education, there you recognize Gramsci and Lorenzo Milani, and generalized improvement in living conditions. So this is a promotional community. Now, a long talk about how universities can contribute to this would take us too far. Let me give you just an example of what we're doing at University of Sassari with the Voice Laboratory, an experience that Rajesh know quite well because they visited. It's a community experience, a small one, not a very large one, but it's an intense and long-lasting. We've been working there for the past 5 years at least. So, and this, as a result, benefits several stakeholders. Benefits the student, working with the community, learning with the community, from the community. We have PhD students. This is in the numbers are, the figures are in the course of 1 year experience, but you can have, like PhD students learning how to do research on the ground, master students going there, community work, community meetings and talks and learning through this, but also final dissertations that are serving the research demands that are emerging from the community. So you have research, demand-driven research, which benefits at all stages of research, at design level, at data generation level, because you have much more reliable data, much more robust data. You have access to actual data, which you don't with ordinary research. The analysis benefits from multiple perspectives because you do a co-analysis. And the impact, yes, figures are hard to get, but you see the impact. Whereas with publication, you don't see the impact. You have to look for how many citations you had. So you look for a proxy of a proxy of a proxy of what you see directly on the ground when you engage directly with the community. And of course, the community benefits. And in partnership, in advocacy and voice, in identity, in multiplication, but also the people, the single people. And let me cite the single people, the single person. His name is Gianluca. But smiles because Gianluca took us around when Bud visited. He took us around in the community. Gianluca came to us is somebody who was taken care of by the social workers, social services, and he joined our community group through that door. As we went along, he started thinking that maybe his life could change. And he actually said, this was the most moving thing. Once he moved from one house, he was living with his parents, he was not autonomous. And he moved out of his house when we were working. And I said, well, that's the big change. And he said to me, there have been many big changes in my life ever since I started working with you guys. And not only did he move out of his house, he became economically autonomous. He went back to studying, to formal studying. He became a helper in the community and eventually became a leader because he took the leadership of, is one of the leaders in the new neighborhood committee, which talks with the administration. So he went from one who was served and eventually was dependent, largely dependent from the administration's aid, to someone who's talking face to face to the administration and bringing the voice of his community to the administration to make change happen. Thank you.